And we're back here on Open. Daren Jaime here with you, and we continue to bring you the news, the information, and the content that you need to know, particularly for a time such as this. As COVID-19 continues to wreak havoc across New York City, as numbers continue to rise, and as we continue to get towards the curve, it's our commitment to try to bring you as much news and information and content to keep you informed. And so we have various segments here on Open, and one is always our legal segment. And my friend, my brother, David Lesch, who is also an attorney and host of Today's Verdict, joins us now on Open to share a little bit. And David, good to have you.
Always good to see you, Daren. Daren, look, I'm not wearing a tie. Probably the first time you've ever seen me ever without a tie.
Well, look, we both got the look, brother. So I mean, it's that way, and you know, given the fact of what's going on right now, I think a lot of us are making adjustments and making modifications. Yeah. But talk to me about, you know, from a legal perspective, you're a lawyer, right? And you're practicing law, but even you've been upended in this. What kind of adjustments have you had to make?
So let me tell you what we did. Right now, I'm in my apartment in Manhattan. Basically confined here, which like most of us are. What my brother and I decided to do, my law partner of Lesch and Lesch, is we decided when it really got bad a couple of weeks ago that we were going to have a meeting with the staff, and we were going to address the staff in such a way that we were going to try to keep everybody on payroll. We had 8 employees in my office, that we were going to keep everybody going. We were not going to cut anybody's salary or anyone's payroll for as long as we possibly could. And to do that, we implemented a few rules so at least we could do this. And we set up our office in such a way, and then I'll explain to you how that impacts the court system as well. What we decided to do was we were going to have 3 meetings a day, 3 Zoom meetings, one at 9:15, one at 1 o'clock, and one at 4:45. All 8 people would be on camera at the same time. And what we would be discussing is the tasks that everybody would be doing during the day to make sure that the office was running. Well, what type of tasks? Well, basically, my practice involves personal injury, when people are involved in accidents, medical malpractice, when you're injured, unfortunately, at the hands of a physician, as well as, you know, sometimes we have real estate deals and estate deals. Well, we have a system in my office called Cloud Lex. It's a software system. It allows everybody to work remotely through a server, and everybody can see what everybody else is doing. We also, believe it or not, which is important, we can tell how long somebody's been actually working on a particular task. So you can find out and you can see how much people are working based on how long they've logged into the system. So let's say we had an accident case which we've been working on. Maybe we can't go to court on it, but that doesn't mean we still can't work on it.
Right.
Defendants will say, hey, we want discovery. We want the medical records of your client. We want photos of the injury. We want accident reports, police reports. We want you to keep working on this, Mr. Lesch. So we don't have a problem with that either. So we'll have somebody log into the system, get all these documents, then forward it on to the defendant's office remotely through email. And this way, back and forth, we can decide what is or what is not being done on a particular case. Now, here's the thing. As attorneys, you have certain time limits that you need to present these things through discovery. Usually, we will file our responses with the court in terms of what's called an e-file system that the Office of Court Administration has created. Because the Office of Court Administration does not want to be backed up with so much work, they've asked the attorneys to no longer e-file, which means whatever we're doing with attorneys now is just between both of us, or among the three of us.
No court involvement.
No court involved. So now you might say, well, David, what happens if you have, I don't know, a statute of limitations that something has to be filed within 3 years and you're up to the last day? Well, you can't do it. You can't file it e-file. You just have to hope that the court will look at it later on and say, okay, you filed within your requisite time, 30 days, 60 days, 120 days. Remember, law is all about time limits.
Right.
And hopefully they'll look back and they'll say, okay, Mr. Lesch, you did do it within that time. You may not have e-filed it, but we asked you not to, but we're going to, look at it in the past and say, fine, not a problem. So what we've been doing as a law office has been acting as if nothing has changed, sending out the discovery responses, making sure that the attorneys get it on the other side. And then if they get it, hopefully they'll review it and say, this is insufficient or sufficient, and we'll work that way. Now you might say to me, well, what else can you do? Well, my practice involves depositions. That's where you're asked questions. Your client is asked questions with a lawyer next to you. Well, believe it or not, we're still doing that. We have in-camera depositions, just the way you and I are talking right now on Zoom.
Right.
We can have situations with a court reporter, so long as everybody agrees that the court reporter does not have to be present in a room, we will go forward. So let's say you were the client, okay, and I was representing you. I could represent you in this way, and we would have in another box the court reporter who was taking this all down.
Right.
And eventually this would be all transcribed into a transcript, sent it in an email for you to read it later on, to give an email signature, and we could do it that way. So it doesn't prevent the law office from running. It just makes it a little bit harder. Now, let me
ask you this, because you're talking about the law office run, and let's take that example. You've got that. You've done that. You've done everything that you're supposed to do. Now, we got to wait for a court date. We don't know when this is going to end, right? What's going to happen? And what do you think in terms of time frame for,
well, that's a good question. Right. That's a good question, because right now we've gotten the directive from the chief judge that everything is shut down in terms of attorney appearances. The only thing that's going on in the courthouse across the street from my office is emergency applications. All right. Those are applications for guardianship, let's say, illegal lockouts. Somebody's locked out of their apartment illegally. These types of things, medical decisions, immediate medical decisions. That's why the administrative judge is still in the courthouse now, with court officers who are risking their lives, who are there right now. So it is open just for emergency applications. But the garden variety attorney like myself, we won't be going back and forth conferences with attorneys. So what do I think is going to happen when everything starts to resolve itself, which hopefully would be sometime in maybe June or July? Well, you certainly don't want 50 to 60 lawyers in a courtroom like we have every single day, mornings and afternoons. You're still going to want some type of separation, even when this does calm down. I see in the future some type of video conferencing that's going to happen. I can't imagine the court attorneys who conference each case are going to want to have 3 attorneys at a time, one after another, coming over. I assume there's going to be a video conferencing. I also think maybe they'll limit the amount of attorneys that are allowed in a courtroom at a time, maybe 5, maybe 10. But you have to understand, Darren, there are so many cases in the Bronx courthouse that it's going to be very difficult to limit it to 10 attorneys at a time. I don't think you understand just how many attorneys are in a courtroom every morning. And this is one courtroom. There'll be 60 attorneys in a courtroom. And that's one courtroom out of 5 courtrooms that have the 60 attorneys in it. It's a constant rotation that goes on. So that's what I think is going to happen. My brother and I are still calling up insurance companies and adjusters to settle cases now. And you might think, well, why would that happen? Well, the insurance adjusters want to justify why they're still getting paid. They have supervisors. So if the insurance adjusters can move a case and can settle a case on the phone for whatever amount that is, and I can get my client on the phone to agree, well, we've just settled a case. And we did that last week. 3 to 4 cases every couple of days we've been able to settle. Everybody wants the wheel to keep running. Now, here's an issue, though. Money. Everybody needs money at this point. Right. The problem is, is getting the check to come into the mail. Well, who's going to get the mail? You got to go into an office. you want to be careful about going into an office. And then remember, with a check, the client has to endorse the check. It has to be signed in the back of the check.
Right.
Because the checks usually come with a lawyer and the client together. So I need either permission from the attorney, from the client to sign the back of the check, but I still have to get to a bank to deposit the check. And I still have to write the client a check. And I still have to mail it to the client. These things can be done, and we're doing these things, but it's just not easy. So the small office like mine with 8 employees, we also have a group in the Philippines that we work with as well. But these 8 employees, this Bronx family law firm is adjusting without laying people off, which
Right.
is not an easy thing
Not
to do,
not
but
not
that's
an
how
easy.
we're doing.
Yeah, not easy. Well, Dave, we got to leave it there because that's our segment, but definitely wanted to get a perspective on exactly how it is for lawyers coping with coronavirus. And you gave us a very in-depth description. And I think we got a better understanding as how it is for the legal system. Thanks so much. And
absolutely. You stay safe, Darren.
Hey,
and next time we talk next week, I'll give you a little bit of update of what's going on in the legal world. Maybe we'll talk about specific laws. How's that?
we'll do that. All right, David Lesch, our guest here on Open. Stay with us. We got more show coming up right after this.